Alright, I think we are live. Alrighty. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is your boy Fitz TV here, aka G-Lauren33. I want to welcome you guys back here to the Legit Shoot podcast, here with your Monday Night Raw review and results for January 11, 2021. Thank you guys, as always, for joining me here right on the podcast. Hopefully, you guys are having a good day, alright? Hopefully, you guys are watching the college football championship game between Alabama and Ohio State. I know that game is much better than anything going on with Monday Night Raw. I know it's a blowout, right? But I'm going to be honest. Anything is better than Monday Night Raw these days. This show is absolutely garbage, and it's sad, because we're on the road to the Royal Rumble. WrestleMania season is upon us. The road to WrestleMania is about to begin in 2 weeks when we have the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, but sadly, Monday Night Raw is complete garbage. And Monday Night Raw does absolutely nothing to get you hyped for the Royal Rumble or for anything that's happening on WrestleMania season. So we have a terrible show tonight. As always, I'm going to do my best to give you guys an entertaining review and make you guys forget about this shit show that we had tonight on Monday night. As always, guys, thank you so very much for joining me on the podcast. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe, hit that big red button, and also hit the bell right next to my name, FitzMonkTV, so you guys are notified every time I post a new video, alright? If you guys haven't already, go check out the SmackDown review. We talked about Sasha Banks, the best female wrestler in the world, being voted as #1 by Sports Illustrated, which, is absolutely the best spot, right? She clearly deserves that. I don't have to tell you guys why. We also talked about Roman Reigns and Adam Pearce becoming the #1 contender for the WWE Championship at the Universal Championship, my bad, at the Royal Rumble, and where I see that going, and why you casual idiots should not be worried about Adam Pearce facing Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. I can't believe I actually have to say that. But, those are the quick things I wanted to get out. I'm going to get right into the opening shoot tonight, right? And it's a big problem with WWE. It's a problem that you guys saw last week with the freaking Raw Legends Night. And if you guys didn't see my rant about Raw Legends Night, you guys missed a big one. You guys easily missed probably the early rant of the year favorite. I know it was only the first Raw review of the year, but it's definitely when we look back at this year, God willing, we get through 2021, we're going to see and, most likely think that this was probably one of my best rants of the year. So go check that out if you guys missed it. I went off on Goldberg, right? I went off on Goldberg, and now Goldberg being the #1 contender for the WWE Championship and Drew McIntyre at the Royal Rumble, all right? I don't care if Goldberg has a 2-match per year contract. Him versus Drew McIntyre is terrible, especially at the Rumble. I don't care what anybody says. And, I'm not even that confident, especially after tonight. I'm even less confident that Drew McIntyre will successfully retain at the Rumble. I'll give you guys that reason why in a little bit, so make sure you guys stay tuned on the podcast. But like I said, the opening shoot, I'm going to try to keep it a little bit short because I've ranted on it in the past. I ranted on it during Raw Legends Night, is Legends, right? WWE is back to depending on legends, right? I ranted last week. Last week, though, they had this whole Legends Night, right? Because WWE's goal was to elevate the show's ratings by bringing on these legends like Mickey James and Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter, and the list goes on and on and on, and it did absolutely nothing for the show. Last week was the worst way you could open up the year for Monday Night Raw. SmackDown, on one hand, is actually consistent. They don't need legends. They don't need these stupid gimmick shows, because when you have Roman Reigns and Sasha Banks, two of the best in the world, two people we are invested in, no matter who they face and what they do, right? You're going to be entertained with what you see on SmackDown. Sasha Banks can make a Carmella feud entertaining and make people tune into that. Roman Reigns can make a feud with Jey Uso into a potential rivalry of the year. You have nothing of that on Monday Night Raw. Instead, you have Vince McMahon's clown ass and Bruce Pritchard sucking his dick, right? Over here depending on legends every single time. And we saw that tonight, right? Drew McIntyre tested positive for COVID-19. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this because there's not much to talk about, right? Drew McIntyre was on Monday Night Raw tonight via satellite. He gave a promo on Goldberg, and he also gave a short little message about, you know, his COVID-19 diagnosis and how he does have symptoms, right? When you're a healthy superstar like Drew McIntyre, right, he eats healthy, you know, he exercises, of course, right? The guy's made of steel. You know, COVID-19 is not really going to have much of an effect on you. We know that COVID is more dangerous to older people. That's why until everybody can get their hands on this vaccine, right, that's why we still have to continue to be safe, wearing our masks, washing our hands, all these other things, right? So, Drew McIntyre getting COVID-19 is not a big deal. The only reason why it's a bigger story is because he's the WWE champion. That's it. If he wasn't the WWE champion, they would just mention it quickly and then move on. You know? But he's the WWE champion. That's the only reason why they made it such a big thing on, today. But Drew McIntyre will be fine. God willing, he'll be back in, 2 weeks. He could be back as early as next week if he tests negative later this week. So it's not a big thing at all for Drew McIntyre, But, it's just a reminder that anybody can get COVID. So you guys make sure you guys stay safe and healthy, right? I don't have to give you guys a speech about that. But Drew McIntyre testing positive for COVID, right? The planned main event for Monday Night Raw tonight was Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. I don't care about that main event at all. I've said this so many times on the podcast, right? And if you guys haven't heard me say this, or if you guys are new to the channel, let me educate you. One thing that WWE loves to do after a pay-per-view, right? So we've seen Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre how many times on pay-per-view last year? Like 4 times, right? They had 3 or 4, pay-per-view matches. They had multiple WWE Championship matches on free TV, right? So they faced off about like 4 or 5 times last year, And the rivalry, it is what it is. If you liked it, whatever. If you didn't like it, whatever. Who cares? But WWE loves to do this thing where they'll give you a pay-per-view match, and after they do the match at the pay-per-view, they'll do the match again on free television, right, a couple weeks later. It's like, oh, we gave you the match at the pay-per-view, let's just do it again, a couple weeks later, because people are going to want to see it again, right? Let's just, and I hate when WWE does that. So Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre, that is not a match that is going to spark the ratings. I'm not saying it's not going to be a good match. We know that Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre have good chemistry. But we've seen the match so many times, like, why should we care? This is a WWE Championship match. It doesn't have any stakes. Why should we care? Right? So when I first saw it, I was like, whatever. So then Drew McIntyre gets COVID. So what does WWE do? Instead of giving this opportunity to an up-and-rising star, somebody that could use this main event spotlight, right? WWE using this opportunity to not only further Randy Orton's storyline with The Fiend and Alexa Bliss, but also elevate another star in the main event. Instead, what do? They call up Triple H, who was in Connecticut today. Triple H gets on a private jet, flies down to the Thunderdome in Tampa, Florida, and we get Triple H versus Randy Orton in a 5-minute match. It wasn't even a match. It was more just an unsanctioned brawl, right, to end Monday Night Raw. I'm not going to say the ending of Monday Night Raw wasn't good. I love Alexa Bliss appearing. You guys know I've been a big fan of Alexa Bliss and The Fiend and what they've been doing with that storyline. But I have no problem with their storyline being furthered in the main event tonight. But why did you have to call Triple H? On one hand, I gotta give Triple H credit. Triple H cares about WWE. I've been saying for years, Triple H should be the guy to take over for Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon is so out of touch. Triple H is probably the only guy that could save Monday Night Raw out of the shithole it's been in creatively for the last 5 years. I've been saying that for years. But the thing about it is, right, and I gotta give credit, Triple H, Triple H didn't have to fly down from Connecticut, bring some ring gear. He didn't even bring ring gear. He had a t-shirt and jeans, but he didn't have to come down and do a 5-minute brawl with Randy Orton. That should have never been on the table. Never been on the table. There's no reason to see that match in 2021. It doesn't mean anything. And with the promo we got tonight, right? Randy Orton saying, do you have to go ask Stephanie McMahon, your wife, to get your balls from her purse? Do you know how many times we've seen that insult used against Triple H over the years? How many times have we seen that insult be used? Many times, legit. When I heard that, I was like, really? We're going that same song and dance? Right? Casuals won't say that. You know, your normal podcasters won't say that. I will, because I pay attention to the show. You know how many times I've heard Randy Orton or some other superstar say that? You know, I've heard CM Punk say it. I've heard John Cena say it. I've heard Randy Orton say it. I've heard Shawn Michaels. I've heard Undertaker say it. How many times do people say, oh, it's because, you know, you're Vince McMahon's son-in-law or you're Stephanie McMahon's wife, right? You need permission to do this or that. I'm just like, that's not going to get me invested in a Triple H story in 2021. I think Triple H just is supposed to have a role on Monday Night Raw. Not as an active performer, but he should be in charge of the creative direction. Vince needs to focus on the business side of WWE, and Triple H needs to take over the creative direction. That's what made NXT so great back in the day. So, you know, NXT is still good now, but it's nowhere near where it was a couple years ago because Vince McMahon and his stupid ass influence got pushed into NXT. I want to see Triple H on Monday Night Raw, but I want to see him in that creative role, not as a performer. This is the kind of shit I hate, right? When WWE feels like they have to spark the ratings, or they're, you know, Drew McIntyre, their top star, gets COVID or some big situation comes up, instead of using that as an opportunity to let a young star make a name for themselves, they decide to go down the same old song and dance. Let's call The Undertaker. Let's call Goldberg. Let's call Brock Lesnar. Let's call Triple H. Let's call Shane McMahon, right? Let's call one of those guys to fill in the role. And they think, oh, just because these guys are legends, some of the greatest of all time, they're going to be the ones to make change on Monday Night Raw, to spark the ratings when the ratings don't move an inch. And Vince continues to wonder why this show is such a shithole. Because you don't elevate the young stars. You don't give them those opportunities. So they don't get a chance to build a bigger name for themselves. They give themselves a bigger platform to show their skills. Look at a Drew Gulak, right? Drew Gulak versus AJ Styles tonight. That was a good 5-minute match. Drew Gulak should have a bigger role on Monday Night Raw. He's one of their best technician wrestlers. But instead, he's made a fool of because he's in this jobber role, giving up these stupid-ass PowerPoints, right? And getting jobbed up to AJ Styles in 5 minutes. That should not be the case. And, you know, if you're happy with Triple H being on Monday Night Raw tonight, you're part of the problem. Because when Vince sees this, he thinks that he's doing something correct when he's not at the end of the day. Triple H should be on Monday Night Raw, but he should not be fighting. He should be in a creative role, right? We saw Goldberg how many times tonight on the show, and he wasn't even there live. They gave him a promo, him and Drew McIntyre, all that bullshit, right? We even saw Ric Flair. What the hell is Ric Flair doing on Monday Night Raw? Especially in this COVID era. Your WWE champion, Drew McIntyre, just got COVID. We don't know how, right? But you have this stupid Legends night. You have Ric Flair, a 70-year-old man there at the Thunderdome. What if Ric Flair gets his COVID somehow? This is the kind of crap I'm talking about. This show is being managed so poorly that nobody cares. Nobody cares. And it's sad. Because Monday Night Raw should be so much better. It's really that simple at the end of the day. It's so much. It really is. All right. I really hate this shit. They don't understand. They don't understand. All right. But you know, that's my little mini rant. The thing is the opening shoot. But the thing about it is, the good thing about this opening shoot tonight, it flows directly into Monday Night Raw. So we'll be able to go right into the show tonight. All right. But let me just look at the chat really quickly. Right. What's going on, everybody? You know, I didn't look at the chat because I was doing my opening shoot. But yeah, what's going on, everybody? I hope you all are ready to get educated. Edward says, I'm not watching Raw until things change. Yeah, right. You watch every single week. Please. You say that every single week. Come on. But anyway, yeah. And Jazz, you know, if Raw makes you want to cry, you shouldn't be watching the show. You know. And Paul, there's my brother UI Paul. Randy should set Goldberg on fire. Absolutely, hell yes. I would not spark a tear. Not one tear would come from my eyes if Goldberg got set on fire. I would clap. I would come on here and say that's the best thing on WWE television all year if Goldberg got set on fire. Honestly, the guy's a selfish prick. I don't care what anybody says. He's a selfish prick. And if he wins the WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble, you guys might get a bigger rant than when Sasha Banks lost to Asuka at SummerSlam. And I'm being serious. I don't want to give that kind of rant, but honestly, that's how much I hate Goldberg. You know, I really hope he does not win. I don't want to have to give that rant. I really don't, but I would not be surprised. It's a bunch of idiotic bullshit. But, yeah, easily, I just want to say this. The best thing, and probably the only good thing on this show tonight, was Alexa Bliss setting Randy Orton on fire with a fireball at the end of the show. That was good. That was really good. But that was it. So, basically, right, Triple H comes out. He was wearing a nice little suit. We opened the show. He had his King of Kings song playing. I do love how Triple H has like 2 different theme songs. I love how he has the King of Kings song when he's authority Triple H, right? Business Triple H. And then when he's the game, the King of Kings, when he's, the cerebral obsession, when he's performing, he has his normal Triple H theme song. I do love that. And I love Triple H, man, but like I said, it's 2021. The guy should not be performing. The only part-timers that I can actually stand on WWE television in 2021 are John Cena and Brock Lesnar. Because I feel like there's still a role for John Cena in WWE if he ever chose to return, right? With every passing day, that window closes more and more, right? But, I still think there is a role for John Cena if he wants to have one last run one day in WWE. I know he's a big movie star. And, of course, Brock Lesnar, you guys know he earned my respect after what he did at the Royal Rumble last year. If Brock Lesnar wants to be a part-timer, he can do whatever he wants. Really. There are very few that can match up with Brock Lesnar, right? I've been saying this, if Keith Lee does not if Keith Lee is not in the WWE Championship match at WrestleMania, Keith Lee versus Brock Lesnar would be the way I would go if Lesnar, comes back. Which, if, Lesnar will come back. There's no way he would miss WrestleMania. Vince would not let that happen, right? So Triple H made to the ring. He welcomed everybody to Raw. He didn't really get to say much, right, because Randy Orton came out. So Randy Orton said that he believed he deserved to have the WWE title handed to him due to McIntyre being out of action. But Triple H told him that the only way that could be done is if he won the Royal Rumble. Excuse me. So then the Legend Killer demanded that he be given the 30th spot in the Rumble match, and Triple H said, clearly that's never been the way things go. One thing that will be interesting, and we got to start considering this, who is going to be number 30 in the Royal Rumble this year, right? Most years you can kind of predict who it's going to be. Like last year it was Shayna Baszler. A couple years ago it was, Samoa Joe, right? I believe it was Samoa Joe. But I am starting to consider who's going to be number 30 in the Royal Rumble. I really don't have an idea right now. Maybe it's a Brock Lesnar, right? Maybe it's a Goldberg. I prayed to everything that is holy that is not Goldberg, right? But honestly, I don't know who's going to be number 30 in the Royal Rumble this year. Usually you would have an idea, but right now I have no clue. Maybe it's Edge. Edge could actually be probably the guy if you think about it. Because, we know Edge is going to probably come back to face Orton at Mania. That should be the plan. So that would make perfect sense. But basically, Randy Orton and Triple H, they went back and forth. They always go like this. How many times have we seen this, right? Triple H said that he's proud of Orton when he put his own career ahead of everything else by lighting Bray Wyatt on fire. But he also said that, he didn't understand why Orton felt the need to embarrass the legends like he has, like Ric Flair, Mark Henry, Big Show, all of that nonsense. So Orton said he is still in his prime, and then he challenged Triple H to a match, right? Triple H turned him down at first, and but then Randy Orton said, I guess you have to go ask permission from Stephanie, right? Because she keeps your balls in her purse. Triple H punched Orton in the face, and basically this was kind of like a, yes, I agree to your fight. You knew this was going to happen. And I hate when WWE does this. It didn't feel special because we've seen this before. And like I said, I appreciate Triple H making that sacrifice, coming down and filling, that void. But it should have been a current superstar. It shouldn't be a legend every single time WWE decides to get themselves in this fucked up situation, right? So then, and the thing about it is, I was thinking Didn't we just see this match like 2 years ago at like Super Showdown back in like 2019 when things were still normal? Like, we saw this match already. I was like, there's nothing that Triple H and Randy Orton can do here that I would care about, right? Only the casuals, that didn't get to see the Triple H and Randy Orton fights growing up. Because remember, they main evented in WrestleMania 25. And what was it wasn't a bad main event. It was just that there was no way that main event was ever going to follow what Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker did. That was the true main event, the greatest WrestleMania main event of all time, if you ask me. Or the main event, the greatest WrestleMania match, my bad. Should have been the main event, but you guys understand what I'm saying, So I was just like, I've seen this, there was nothing there for me. Nothing that got me, hyped up. Like, because we've seen this shit so many times. All right? So basically that sets the stage for the main event. Later on in the night, right, Triple H was interviewed. There was no Charlie Caruso tonight. I love Charlie Caruso. I don't know why she was on the show. Actually, I'm going to look that up really quick. I hope she doesn't have COVID or anything. But I do know she does work part-time for ESPN. But, yeah, no Charlie Caruso, man. Like, come on. Let me look it up real quick. I'll look it up later. It's going to take me too long anyway. But, no Charlie Caruso. They had that other backstage announcer there, right? And she asked Triple H if she would accept the fight. And Triple H said, I don't really have a choice, right? When people push you too far, you got to make these hard decisions. So, yeah, so you knew what was going to happen, right? You knew where this was going. There was nothing special here. Nothing special. But let me know what you guys thought of that opening segment, with Triple H and Randy Orton, right? But hold on, I'm just looking really quick. All right. Anyway, moving on. We're wasting too much time on these. But anyway, Triple H accepted the fight, and that was that. Also, later on in the night, Keith Lee, right? We know that Keith Lee and Triple H have their connection because of NXT. Keith Lee was like, I'll have your back tonight if you need me there. You shouldn't have to go out and wrestle. But Triple H was like, I appreciate it, but I'll take care of Randy Orton, man. I'm going to finish what he started. And that was that. All right? So, getting on into the first action of the night, Raw started off. This was terrible. We had Lacey Evans versus Charlotte Flair. And, this was because last week, right, Lacey Evans pinned Charlotte Flair thanks to, interference from Ric Flair, right? It looked like Ric Flair accidentally tripped Charlotte, and that allowed Lacey Evans to roll Charlotte up. So basically, before the match, right, Charlotte said there's no issue between her and her father. She also said that Lacey's not the first woman to ever hit on Rick in front of her, right? She said that she would teach Lacey a lesson in the ring. So then Charlotte made her entrance. Lacey then got interviewed, and Lacey said that she didn't flirt with anybody that didn't want to be flirted with. So, right, so it was like Rick wanted Lacey to flirt with her. I don't know what they're doing here. I know Lacey's married in real life, and I believe so is Ric Flair, so I have no idea what they're doing. Like, honestly, this is disgusting. It's honestly disgusting to see that. I know it's all, like, scripted, but I'm just like, please, who wants to see that? Who thinks that this is entertaining? No one finds this entertaining. This is pure garbage, right? So they locked up, whatever, and right before we went to commercial, Rick's music hit. So once again, Ric Flair making an appearance on Monday Night Raw. Here's a stat for you guys. I know we're only 2 weeks into 2021, but Ric Flair has already made more appearances on Monday Night Raw than your Raw Women's Champion, Asuka. What's going on? First, Sasha Banks is not on SmackDown on Friday, and now Asuka's not on Monday Night Raw. We all know Sasha's been booked much better as a women's champion than Asuka has, right? That's not even debatable. But You guys know I bitch and moan about it every single week. And I love that more and more people are finally taking notice. Asuka has done nothing with the Raw Women's Championship, and it's not her fault. Right? They'll give Charlotte and Lacey Evans 20 minutes on this show, right? Because it's Charlotte. We can't do a Raw without our queen, our top star. But Asuka has had a meaningful Raw Women's Championship rivalry since Sasha Banks. I'm a broken record at this point, but I'm just giving you facts. I'm just educating you guys. Oh, you Asuka fans that are happy that Asuka's getting this long reign, you shouldn't be. Because she hasn't faced anybody. It's not her fault at the end of the day. I love Asuka. But this is one of the worst women's championship reigns of all time. This is worse than Becky's 1 year champion. Because Becky, Becky's 1 year's Raw Women's Champion was not good. Outside of her matches with Sasha Banks and Asuka during that whole 1 year's champion, her reign was a disappointment. I don't care how great Becky is. I like Becky. I can't wait to see her return. But I'm just giving you facts. Becky's championship reign for a year was not that good. And Asuka's reign has been more terrible. I don't know how you fuck up Asuka and Becky's championship reigns. I don't understand how you do that, but they have. Asuka has nobody to defend against. And that makes no fucking sense. No sense. It's a travesty. It really is. It's a travesty at the end of the day. Right? So, yeah, Ric Flair is featured more on Monday Night Raw than Asuka these days. That doesn't show you the problem that Monday Night Raw has. I don't know what will. So Ric Flair comes out, right? I don't know why he's there. You just had Drew McIntyre test positive for COVID-19. But here you have Ric Flair waltzing his old ass down to the ring. Nobody cares. He doesn't do anything for the ratings, right? So we come back from break. Charlotte's telling Rick, "Oh, as she's wrestling Lacey, you should have stayed your old ass home. Should have stayed your old ass home, right?" So there's Charlotte roasting her father, and then all of a sudden, Charlotte's yelling at Rick again, and all of a sudden, Charlotte did a suplex, right? Pins Lacey Evans, but all of a sudden, no. Charlotte goes for a suplex. Rick trips her again for the second straight week, right? Rick trips Charlotte during the suplex. And then as Lacey Evans is making the pin, Rick is holding Charlotte's right leg so Charlotte can't kick out. And that's what happened. I don't care about Charlotte Flair winning. I love to see Charlotte lose. I love it. I don't care about Charlotte in the slightest. But, you have at ringside after match, you have Lacey and, Ric Flair celebrating, right? Lacey all sweaty, just freaking fawning over Rick. The only thing that would have made this more disgusting is if Lacey started lip locking with Rick. I'm so happy they didn't do that. If they had done, I would have turned off Raw right then and there and not watched the rest of the show. That would have been disgusting. Luckily, they didn't do that, but I don't know what this storyline is. I don't know if this is just like Rick trying to prove he's the dirtier Flair. I don't know. Rick has now intentionally cost Charlotte 2 matches in a row. So I don't know what they're doing here. All right, not that I really care, but it's not doing anything to make the show better. I don't want to see Ric Flair on the show. All right, I don't want to see this on the show at all. All right, it's garbage. Oh, there's my boy Anthony there. Good to see my boy Anthony. I gotta say it every single time he makes an appearance. Anthony was the initial co-host of this podcast with me 2 years ago. It's already been what, 2 years since Anthony stopped watching the product. So it's been 3 years basically, right? But I always gotta give a shout out to Anthony in the chat, man. Make sure you guys go talk to my boy. Shout out to him. But it's garbage. Who wants to see Ric Flair on their TV? And I keep saying it. The theme of WWE always relying on fucking legends. They never get it. They never fucking understand how awful it actually is. They don't. And if you support this, you are the problem with the product. Moving on to, we go from worse to horrific. We get Jeff Hardy versus Elias. Another match we've seen how many times in 2020? Those two feuded for 2 months, seeing who could hit each other with the guitar the hardest every single week. So we got this match again, right? So the match never happened, right? Because Elias, came out saying that he had a finger injury, right? Similar to Jared Goff, the quarterback of the Los Angeles Rams, saying that he injured himself while in the studio and that he couldn't face Jeff Hardy tonight, right? So then he would have to face off against Jaxson Ryker instead. Jason Ryker beat Jeff Hardy in like 2 minutes. This match didn't go on at all, right? But Elias did make the interference. That is how Ryker got the win. Not that I cared, but we go up the entrance ramp. Jeff Hardy grabs a microphone and he says that I want to face you, Elias. Because he felt like Elias was faking the injury, right? Jeff Hardy said that Elias knows he's not better than Jaxson Ryker. All right. So we got the match here. Elias told Ryker before the match, "Do not interfere." Ryker did not interfere. This match didn't go long, right? I didn't really care about it at all. I was not paying attention. I was paying attention more to Alabama versus Ohio State at this point. Hardy hit a twist of fate and swanton bomb for the win. Ryker did nothing to help. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? Awful. This show, bad. Absolutely bad. I don't care about anything they do with Elias and Jeff Hardy right now. If I'm Jeff Hardy, I'm hoping that I can get out of WWE as soon as possible. I don't even think that's possible because I believe Hardy re-signed last year. I might be wrong on that, but I think he re-signed for like another 2 years, which if he did, that's a massive mistake. The guy should be in AEW teaming up with his brother, right? They should be in the best tag team division in all of pro wrestling right now. Not wasting away on Monday Night Raw. Jeff Hardy means nothing on Monday Night Raw right now. Nothing at all. He's just another guy. Another guy. Disgusting. Terrible. What else do you want me to say? Teaming up with his brother. Nothing, right? Yeah, I know you guys agree with me. Alright, moving on. Next up, we had The Miz and Morrison versus Sheamus and Keith Lee. This was set up in a backstage segment, right? Keith Lee was being asked what was his thoughts on not being able to defeat Drew McIntyre for the WWE title in the main event of Raw Legends Night last week. So basically Sheamus came over, and it looked like Sheamus and Keith Lee were finally going to put their differences aside, right? Miz and Morrison came over. Miz with that stupid-ass Money in the Bank contract, which means nothing to me because we know that the Miz will not successfully cash in whenever he does cash in, right? Terrible. And here's the thing you got to think about. Money in the Bank is in May. Yeah, we got to start thinking about the Money in the Bank soon. We still got 4 months, but it's coming up sooner rather than later. So if they're going to have the Miz fail his cash in the right way this time, they better do it soon. Because they've made the Money in the Bank briefcase into a complete joke on WWE. Complete joke on WWE. So Miz and Morrison, right, they're talking about how they're going to take out all of their opponents for 2020. Or all of their wrongs from 2020, including Keith Lee and Sheamus. So then they made the challenge, and then we got this match. Like I said, I was not paying attention to this match. I was paying attention more to college football. So we saw, right, Morrison and Miz were working on Keith Lee's arm, but Keith Lee was still able to hit them with the not the spirit bomb. Sheamus, right before Keith Lee went for the spirit bomb, Sheamus tagged himself in, which Keith Lee could kind of tell because Keith Lee did the same thing to Sheamus a couple weeks ago. So then Sheamus came in. They got Sheamus hit the bro kick. They got the win. They shook hands after the bell. We come back from break, right? And Keith Lee and Sheamus are now butting heads. I would have kind of wished we got some kind of replay to see what happened, right? Because right before we went to commercial, they're hugging, they're dapping each other up, and all of a sudden, they're butting heads when we come back from commercial. Here's my thing. I'm not surprised that Sheamus and Keith Lee butt heads. They've been doing this for months now. The thing about it is, at least show me, right? How did they butt heads? You know, because they should have been backstage and catering, celebrating their victory. Why the hell do we come back from break and these two are all over each other, wanting to kill each other? Right? The Thunderdome people got to see that. Why can't we as the audience get to see that? Logic gap! Fucking insulting my intelligence. That's what it is. Alright? So we come back from break and we get Keith Lee versus Sheamus. Not gonna lie, the match was pretty good. We know that the match was pretty good. This is Keith Lee and Sheamus we're talking about. They have really good chemistry with one another. Right? So, the match got, started. Sheamus worked on the already injured Keith Lee arm, right? This was actually pretty good. This was like around less than 10 minutes, right? And you kind of saw this later on the show. You would see this later on the show with Riddle and Bobby Lashley, which we'll get to in a little bit, right? If you guys saw this last week was the theme on the show was roll-ups. Roll up, roll up, roll up. This week the theme was, let's have superstars pull double duty because we have no engaging storylines for these people. Just garbage, 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 right? Oh my gosh, I got a Dragon Ball Legends tweet. Oh man, we're getting Legends Limited Piccolo. Of course we are, because that's the weakest Legends Limited character in the game. But anyway, right? We get the match, and like the match was pretty good. All of a sudden Lee was able to lift Sheamus off the mat, the breaking armbar, and then he hit the spirit bomb for the pin, right? Got the win even with the injured arm. It was actually pretty impressive because Sheamus is like 275 pounds, right? That's over. that's almost like another me, right? That's double the weight I am almost. So, well, not really, but yeah, you guys get the point. So Sheamus gets hit with the spirit bomb. It actually looked pretty good when you see it on replay that Keith Lee was able to lift Sheamus up that high. But afterwards, right, Lee offered Sheamus a fist bump, but after the match, Sheamus hugged him instead. So these two, walk out with respect for one another. I don't know. I like their chemistry. They were actually decent as a team. I just don't know what we're doing here. Clearly, I think we're still setting up Sheamus to go up against Drew McIntyre eventually, right? But I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see. I don't really mind Sheamus as a babyface. I just hope he has some kind of direction at the end of the day. That's what's important. If he has direction. If he doesn't, then we're just wasting our time here. But this wasn't bad. This wasn't bad. Next up, we had T-Bar versus Xavier Woods, right? T-Bar versus Xavier Woods. Xavier Woods was by himself tonight. Lone member of the New Day, right? We know Big E's busy as IC champion over on SmackDown. And Kofi Kingston, right? The story with him is that he has an injured jaw. I didn't see that on any of the dirt sheets, right? Maybe this is just, maybe Kofi got COVID. I don't know. Maybe Kofi got COVID, and they came up with that injury to script him off TV. But yeah, they said he has a broken jaw, right? So that's something that's gonna take him a little bit to. Actually, I'm looking on right now, and actually no, the broken jaw was real. I just saw a photo. Gee. Yeah, Kofi Kingston actually did have a broken jaw. I just found a tweet of him spitting out 2 teeth, right? He lost 2 teeth in that match against Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, which shows you that wrestling is real, right? They're hitting each other really hard in that ring. They don't work out every day for nothing. So it looks like Kofi does have a broken jaw. The reason why I was a little surprised about that, if you guys remember, Kofi was in action last week. He competed the night after TLC, right? He faced off against Miz and Morrison on Legends Night, So that's why I was just a little bit surprised. But he is injured, so hopefully he's all right. And I expect Kofi to probably be back before the Rumble. So maybe Xavier will fly solo these next couple weeks. Xavier did have a pretty good showing in that match tonight, and like I said, Xavier is decent in the ring on his own. He's not on the level of Big E or Kofi, right? But he's not bad in the ring. We know this. Also, I'll just quickly mention this when I talk about Kofi and the New Day. The New Day, if you guys don't listen to the New Day podcast on Spotify or wherever you guys listen to podcasts, go listen to the recent episode. They did a very emotional episode talking about Brody Lee, aka Luke Harper. You guys know he passed away. He passed away late last year, right, in December. It hasn't even been a month yet. So make sure you guys go check out that podcast because the New Day, they were talking about Brody Lee and stories of him on the road, right? So go check that out. That was a very emotional episode. I love listening to the New Day podcast, and that episode, it hits hard. So go check that out if you guys have some time, right? Maybe go check that out right after this review. But we had Xavier Woods versus T-Bar, so I don't know what's happening. I guess they're dropping the Ricochet story, which I never really cared about to begin with, right? But Ricochet, they didn't do anything with Ricochet and Retribution last week. They did nothing with them this week. So maybe they're dropping that story, right? Wouldn't be surprised because WWE doesn't know how to conclude storylines anyway. So it looks like that is that. And I believe Ricochet's contract is coming up soon. And if I was him, of course, I would leave WWE as soon as possible and head over to AEW where his talents would be used. Definitely a lot better, right? Edward, I agree with you. Yeah, Edward talking about things about to get real in Alabama because they about to win the championship, and everyone knows how Bama fans act. Yeah, if anybody from Alabama's watching this review, right? Act smart tonight, folks. Act smart, man. We don't need any more people getting COVID, right? We want to end this pandemic as soon as possible. But doing that tonight, it's not worth it. It's really not. Wait till things get back to normal and then have your little celebration, for people that have common sense. But anyway, back to the Raw review. So Xavier Woods versus T-Bar tonight, this was not a bad match, mainly because Xavier Woods. I don't really care about T-Bar. I hate that Dominic Dijakovic and, Mia Yim, are not being used correctly. But, I didn't really care much for this match. It wasn't bad. Near the end, we saw Xavier. He nailed a missile dropkick that sent T-Bar out of the ring, right? Then he hit it with a second dropkick through the ropes. So Mustafa Ali was able to distract was able to distract Xavier long enough to allow T-Bar to yank Woods into the top rope. Then he picked up Woods, hit him with his finisher, which is it's almost like an inverted GTS in a way, and then he made the win. So that's it. Not a bad match. Don't really care about Retribution because WWE refuses to use them for anything, right? So that was that. Next up, we had Bobby Lashley versus Matt Riddle for the U.S. title. I'm a little confused on the booking for this. Why did WWE decide to book this match the way they did tonight? So I've been on the record saying that I want to see Bobby Lashley and Matt Riddle feud, right? There's talent in that mid-card division. WWE just has to choose to invest in it, right? So, this was a feud I was hoping would actually get some more build, right? You have maybe Matt Riddle take down each member of the Hurt Business, building himself up to Bobby Lashley. They had Matt Riddle beat Bobby Lashley, which was a controversial decision last week on Raw, because Bobby Lashley's been so dominant. But this week they decided to flip the script. And I was like, huh? It's not like I expected Matt Riddle to take the U.S. Championship from Bobby Lashley, but I felt like they should have done something different than what they did tonight, right? So, what happened is, Matt Riddle came out, Lashley came out with MVP. Bobby was very, very focused. Very, very focused and intense. I love when Lashley has that attitude because he's not that good on the mic. So it's up to him when you're not good on the mic, it's up to you to be able to convey, your story through facial expressions and emotions and body language. Lashley did a really good job tonight showing how much he really wanted to hurt. The definition of hurt, right? Lashley really put that on display against Matt Riddle tonight. So we see, right, the Almighty attacked Riddle before the bell to get an early advantage, and he did this multiple times. It almost got to the point where you would think that the ref was going to have to cancel the match, because Lashley refused to give Riddle a fair shot. He just kept attacking him over and over and over again. So then, We see Riddle got some offense here when he was able to shove Lashley into the ring post and hit him with a floating bro. Lashley caught him in midair and slammed it to the mat and then applied the hurt lock. This was less than 5 minutes, right? This is a match. It's disappointing because it's like any good feuds or rivalry they could do with Bobby Lashley and that U.S. Championship, they're just rotting to waste. They're just rotting to waste, right? Keith Lee, that's a feud I want to see. Keith Lee versus Bobby Lashley. They had one match late last year, I think it was in November, and it was actually kind of disappointing. You know, I feel like WWE didn't give those two a fair shot to actually show what they can do, because that could be an actual really good match between two really good heavyweights, right? Matt Riddle, right? Matt Riddle, because of how good he is in the ring and Bobby Lashley's intensity, that's a rivalry that you could develop if done correctly. Tonight, they have Riddle lose in 5 minutes, and yes, you can make the argument that Matt Riddle was not fully prepared because Lashley attacked him before the match, right? But if you're going to do that, at least, right, at least give us reason to believe that Riddle has a shot. Riddle never had a shot, even when he was able to, pick up some of the speed. It was that obvious. And then the way they had Lashley dominate Riddle and have him tap out easily with the hurt lock, right? It makes you think like this rivalry's done. Don't waste our time anymore, right? Who wants to see this anymore? So then afterwards, we see Riddle, he grabs the mic and then he challenges MVP to a match. So then we come back from commercial, MVP versus Riddle. This was even shorter than Lashley versus Riddle, right? Especially because Riddle had already been in competition just a couple minutes before. MVP was wrestling in a shirt and pants, right? He just took off his tie and his suit jacket. So MVP was dominating. Riddle got some offense in until he hit Bobby Lashley at ringside. So Lashley came in and took out Matt Riddle for the win, right? So basically, Matt Riddle gets the disqualification victory. But Lashley and MVP clearly didn't care. MVP hit Riddle with a huge kick to the midsection, which actually looked like it hurt. Matt Riddle's the best seller in WWE, or MVP hit Riddle where it hurt. Like the way it sounded and the way it looked, Riddle looked in real pain there. So I don't know what's gonna happen here if the story's gonna continue, right? I know I said the last couple weeks that I wanted to see this, and I wouldn't even be mad with Riddle being the one to take the U.S. Championship from Lashley, but they've taken me out of it now. They fucked up. This is what WWE's known for. They take things that are supposed to be exciting and things you want to be invested into and things you want to see, and then they fuck it up. Either by giving the match over and over again, right? Or by rushing the program, And they clearly rushed this Lashley versus Riddle program. I wasn't expecting this to be a match on the Royal Rumble card, but you could have at least got this match to around the Royal Rumble. You didn't have to go rush it in 2 weeks, because now what do you do with Lashley, right? It doesn't matter if you do it Matt Riddle versus Lashley again. It doesn't seem believable with how you basically made Riddle look like a jobber here. So now I'm like, what do you do? Do you go back to Keith Lee versus Lashley? I still feel like they never really got a full shot, but I don't know what you do. I don't know what they do. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I was very disappointed with what they did with Riddle versus Lashley tonight. I didn't even know that match was announced for the U.S. Championship till I saw it. Around the 10 o'clock hour, but I feel like they did that very, very wrong. So we'll see what happens there, man, but it kind of, ruined the U.S. Championship picture for me with what they did tonight. But that's just my opinion. All right. Moving on. We had Drew Gulak versus AJ Styles. This was set up, because Drew Gulak said that he wanted a spot in the Royal Rumble match, but Pierce said he had to earn his opportunity and he would have to defeat AJ Styles, right? Clearly, AJ Styles gets that spot because, it's AJ Styles. He's a 2-time WWE champion. He's one of the best in the world. He shouldn't have to, ask to be in the Royal Rumble. He should just be in it, right? So, we get this match here, and it's sad that Drew Gulak's in the position like he is, because I already said earlier that Drew Gulak is very, very talented. He's a good technician, and if WWE just, gave him a little more of a personality, right, he could be a really good contender in that mid-card division. But instead, they have him be a jobber and in this, 24/7 title picture all the time that no one gives a damn about him. And it's sad because it shouldn't be like that. So we got this match. This match was about 5 minutes. It was actually very, very good for the 5 minutes it was. Right, Gulak did some very interesting moves here. He wanted to try to defeat Styles as quick as possible, but Styles kicked out at everything Gulak threw at him. So Styles dumped Gulak over the top rope here. Almost stood by, right? Almost looked at, almost stared down Gulak as Gulak was looking up at his giant foot. And then Styles brought him back into the ring, hit it with the phenomenal forearm for the victory. So I'm still not sure. I'm still baffled if AJ is a babyface or not, right? Gulak is a jobber babyface, but Styles has been, more of a tweener these last couple weeks. It doesn't look like they have any clear direction with AJ Styles, and I don't know what you do with him. Maybe you give us AJ Styles versus Bobby Lashley. That's a match I think that would be good. Even though I believe AJ Styles to be in the main event scene, right? Maybe that's what you need to pick up your mid-card division. We saw AJ Styles as the IC champion early last year on SmackDown. He can elevate the mid-card division when he's put in the right position, because it's AJ Styles at the end of the day. But I'm just like, I don't really know what to do with AJ Styles right now. Let's see what happens with the Rumble and see if that sets up any big rivalry for AJ. But right now I just don't know what you do with him. First we gotta figure out if he's babyface or heel, to be honest, right? So next up we had Shayna Baszler versus Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax versus Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose. I didn't give a shit about this at all. We know that these two teams have been kind of feuding these last couple months, but you guys know who gives a crap, right? Right? We the Raw Women's division is in such peril. It's shameful. It really is shameful how bad the Raw Women's division is at the moment. I don't have to go about. I don't have to rant right now. Why hasn't Shayna Baszler been built up to face Asuka? Right? Asuka's doing nothing right now, and she's a double champion. Imagine being a double champion. You have no contenders. They have basically no contenders for the tag titles or Asuka's Raw Women's Championship. But yet you think doing these stupid matches, a match we've seen how many times between Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose going up against Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. How many times have we seen that match since the draft? It's pure garbage. So this match was another short 5-minute match. It was terrible at the end here, right? Nia stacked Mandy and Dana up for a running splash. Baszler tagged herself in, right? Jax didn't look that happy that Baszler tagged herself in. Like I said, I don't care about this team at all. You guys know Nia Jax fucking sucks, right? And Shayna hasn't been used at all in the last year correctly. Shayna hit Rose with the careful clutch, and she tapped out pretty quickly. All right, that's whatever. Also, Mandy and Dana did. Mandy and Dana did put themselves into the Royal Rumble match. So yeah. NBA YouTube says there's rumors that we might get Triple H versus AJ Styles at WrestleMania. Look, I love Triple H. I love AJ Styles. I'm not interested in that. Why? What's the story? Why? We don't need Triple H. We don't need these part-timers on a WrestleMania show. It's up to WWE to do their job and actually make this show important. Elevate the young stars. Build them up to the point where they can carry a WrestleMania card and they don't need guys like Goldberg and Triple H. Stop with that nonsense. I don't want to hear Triple H versus Styles at WrestleMania. I love both, right? But build up somebody for Styles on the actual brand, right? Do something like that. So in our main event tonight, we had Triple H versus Randy Orton, the Game, making his first match, his first WWE match in over a year and a half. I don't remember what his last match was. It may have been at Super Showdown or Crowd Jew, probably. I'm willing to bet that's probably what it last was, right? But Triple H, he came out in a t-shirt and jeans, right? Ready for a fight, right? Triple H clearly didn't have all his rig gear in him, and his abs, since he's not wrestling full time anymore, his abs probably weren't in shape, so that's why he came out with the shirt. Orton came out. This was nothing that we haven't seen with Randy Orton and Triple H before. This was only a 5-minute brawl. There was a lot of 5-minute trash on this show tonight. You know, this wasn't really anything. It was just them throwing punches and kicks and brawling at ringside. If you ever seen a Triple H versus Randy Orton match, you didn't see anything in this match that you haven't seen before between these two. All right, if they faced off so many times, they know each other so well. It was just a brawl, you know, punches, kicks, you know, throwing each other into barricades, right? Nothing special. The big thing happened here at the end of the match. This is what I actually liked. This was the only thing I liked on this show tonight. Only thing. So at the end here, Triple H gets the great equalizer, right? The sledgehammer. That's his tool. That's his weapon. That's his go-to. So he looked like he was going to hit Randy Orton with the sledgehammer, but all of a sudden, the Fiend's entrance stuff, you know, when the lights go off slowly in the Thunderdome and in the arena, so that starts playing. And you're like, wait a minute, is the Fiend going to show up? You know, I still think they're saving the Fiend's return for the Royal Rumble. That's what it's going to be, one of the big moments, right? I'm willing to bet they're going to have Edge, Orton, the Fiend, all in there at the same time. You know, Randy's two big rivals from the last year, you know, outside of Drew McIntyre, of course. That's what they're going to have waiting for Orton at the Rumble. That's why I think they're going. But the Fiend's music starts, you know, playing, and all of a sudden, you know, you see Triple H's sledgehammer catches on fire. And you're like, whoa. But this is clearly an Easter egg and a callback to the rivalry that, these two have been having, the Fiend and Randy Orton. So what we see here is we see all of a sudden Triple H disappears, and then you see Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss is on the other side of the ring, and you're like, whoa, what is Alexa gonna do? So then she does this pose, right? I forget what this pose is called, but all of a sudden her arm is wrapped and you can see pain. Similar to how on the Fiend's gloves, one side says heal, one side says pain. So clearly Alexa's picking pain, and all of a sudden she throws like some kind of fireball at Randy Orton, and it hits him right in the eye. It was clearly, you know, some CGI effects, we all know that. But, you know, it was a pretty cool visual. It's like Alexa's getting payback on Randy Orton for not only burning the Fiend, but insulting her. Because remember, Randy Orton was, you know, messing with the Funhouse a couple weeks ago. So I kind of like this. You know, having Triple H there with the sledgehammer, the burning sledgehammer, right? Giving Randy Orton that reminder of the Fiend. And then Alexa Bliss there, which you guys know, I've loved what they've done with Alexa Bliss lately on Raw. I wish they would build her up in the women's division, because I would kind of want to see Alexa Bliss and this character go after the Raw Women's Championship. But I did like what they did here with the ending. Like I said, I don't agree with the whole Triple H, you know, I don't agree with the whole Triple H versus Randy Orton in 2020. I don't agree with that at all. I don't care what anybody says, right? If you agree with that, you're the problem with this company. But I did like how they were at least able to turn that into a continuation with Randy Orton's storyline with The Fiend. I love what they did with Alexa Bliss tonight. Love what they did with the Fireball. And clearly, you know, The Fiend's going to come back to get payback on Randy Orton eventually. That's definitely going to happen, you know, probably at the Royal Rumble, right? But other than that, that's it for the Raw review. Like I said, that was the only part of the show I liked. You know, Alexa Bliss hitting Randy Orton with the Fireball at the end of the show. That was the only thing I liked about this show tonight. But this was not a good show whatsoever. You know, there was nothing. Like, if you guys missed the show tonight, there is absolutely nothing you guys missed. If you guys want to just check out the end of Raw to see what Alexa Bliss did, that might be the only thing worth going back and watching. This show was garbage tonight, right? Garbage. The Goldberg versus Drew McIntyre shit, garbage. You know? And there's nothing else for me to say. Nothing else for me to say. I barely talked about the WWE Championship tonight. That should show you how bad the show was. This was a bad show. Alright, that's basically all I gotta say. But other than that, guys, that's all I got for you guys today. Before you guys leave, make sure to hit that like button if you guys are new to the channel. Subscribe, hit the bell right next to my name, Fitz TV, so you guys are not only subscribed, but you guys are notified every time I post a new video, right? Follow me down on social media if you guys ever want to live tweet with me about anime, wrestling, all that good stuff. But other than that, that's all I got for you guys today. I'm going to get out of here. I'll see you guys later. Check out the SmackDown review if you guys missed it already. Until then, guys, stay safe and healthy, y'all. Peace.